Alrighty. So I'm gonna wait for a few people to come in here. Denali, come here. Hello. Hello, Chelsea. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, baby. All right. So, hello. No, go on, Banksy. For those of you who are on my Instagram, Binks had to go to the vet. He's feeling much better. Oh, I know you want me to put you down. All right. So, basically, I just wanted to I wanted to do an actual video, but sitting and talking to my phone is kind of weird, and I feel as though, like, doing a live is better because people can actually, like, ask questions. But basically, I kind of just wanted to talk about, living with EDS and what exactly getting Denali was like for me, and what it was like before I kind of had him. So the glare in my glasses is awful. I'm just gonna take my glasses off. You might hear Denali playing because he's messing with one of the cats. But hello. So basically, before I got Denali, I was recently diagnosed with Ehlers Danlos. I got diagnosed back in, I believe, 2015 from a geneticist. And basically, I kind of knew from the beginning that I had EDS. My mom had been diagnosed, and I always presented signs. I'd always had issues. But the older I got, the worse it got, especially basically they describe it as after you stop growing is when you start deteriorating. So basically, by the time I was 15, I was getting to the point where puberty had kind of stopped. And by 16 is when I started to have a lot more issues. And after that, that was when it really started to get bad. I started to really deteriorate and get sick. So basically, before having Denali, I was suffering from vasovagal syncope or vasovagal dysautonomia. It's basically very similar to POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is what my mother has. But it isn't caused specifically by standing. POTS is defined as being specifically caused by standing. That change in posture is what causes the body to overreact or underreact in other people's situations. My body, they don't know exactly what triggers it. It is some sort of external stimulus that causes my body to overreact or underreact, and I pass out. Or I have pre-syncope symptoms, which means basically I begin to black out. I lose feeling and control over my limbs as my body starts to shut down. So basically, the blood is not going to my brain, so it starts to shut off. So that's kind of how I can explain what vasovagal syncope is. If you look it up, it's considered very common, but it's not. Those are for people who suffer from it after surgeries. Vasovagal dysautonomia in and of itself is rare, more rare than people with POTS. People who have it chronically are more rare. So yeah. Beforehand, I was having a lot of issues with trying to survive in school. I love being on TV, Chelsea. But before having him, when I was in school, it was really hard because I was still going to school and was still trying to keep up with a school schedule. And I was being forced to walk up almost 4 flights of stairs in less than 3 minutes, which was causing me to go into pre-syncope. And a lot of the times I would have to stop part of the way and I would end up being late for class. Well, one day I pushed myself too far and I went into pre-syncope and I had a split lapse in consciousness and I fell face first down onto the the next step up, and I busted my nose from passing out. And then the other ones, the ones that were more scary for me, was when I was living alone. I had moved out, and I did have a roommate, but we lived separate lives. We lived separate. We were friends, but we had different lives. And I had gotten into the floor. I forget exactly what I was doing. I think I was cleaning or I was picking something up or something like that. I got into the floor and I tried to stand back up, and I went to kneel and then like push myself up. And when I did that, my knee came out. My knee came out of its socket and shifted, and I got stuck. Um, I got stuck in the floor in excruciating pain. I didn't have my phone. I wasn't around anything in my home. This is before I kind of um, changed that apartment to where there was stuff where I could always get to. Um, it was before I did any of that, and I kind of got stuck in just an empty space, and I couldn't get up. So I basically got stuck in my floor for maybe 2.5 hours. And I had to wait for my roommate to come home and help me. Um, and it just, it was scary. That was a scary situation to be in, to be stuck there, and unable to get up. Um, and I didn't know what else to do. That was the first time being completely alone that had happened. And then it wasn't long after that one that a lot of the times when you subluxate or dislocate something with EDS one time, it continues to happen because it's loosened those joints, those ligaments. So it wasn't long after that that I didn't stop carrying my phone. Like I started carrying my phone all the time in my house. And this time it happened again. But it was in a little bit different part of the house. And I got stuck again. This time I had my phone, but my front door was locked. And there was no way, it was after hours, there was no way that anybody was going to be able to get to me. There was no way that they could kick down my door. It was a basement level apartment. The doors were like big old metal doors, and the locks were like heavy duty deadbolt locks. There was no way that you would be able to kick my door in. Even the door jambs were metal. Like there was no way that you could get into my house. So again, I did have my phone this time, so I messaged my roommate. Yeah, this is at my old apartment. Chelsea knows kind of how my apartment was set up when they started coming. I had my house very cluttered at that point, so that way I did have stuff, but at this point it wasn't like that. It was a very open concept. And basically I messaged my roommate and asked when they were going to be home. And luckily this time it was only going to be an hour until they were able to get home. And they had to help me get up again. And And it was really embarrassing because at this point it had happened twice in almost like a 1 month period, maybe 1.5 month period. And, she was my friend, yes, but I shouldn't have to rely on my roommate to help me out like that. Um, so after that is when I started to kind of modify the house and make it to where I could get up if something like that happened. And not to mention, at this point, I was going to school. I was in college and I was going to cosmetology school, and I was going to school for 12 hours a day, from the early hours of 8, 9 o'clock in the morning until 8, 9 o'clock at night. Um, and then I would have to come home, cook, clean, shower, all that stuff. And I was not healthy enough to do that. I was started to choose sleep over eating. I would choose to shower over sleeping. And it was a very not so great time. At this point, I did have Denali. I received Denali when I was 18 as a graduation gift because I had always wanted a German. I had always wanted a expensive German. And we started work when we first got him. And then I went to college and I was without him for like 2 months. He stayed at my parents' house. But in that time period is when this stuff was happening. And it only got worse. It went from, me falling and getting stuck outside of, in the main of the house to, there was one time when I slipped and fell in the shower and I really hurt myself. I cracked my head open on my sink. I was getting up and out of the bathtub and I slipped. And when I did, I hit my head right off the corner of the sink. And I cracked my head open. I had a welt and I had like a big gash on my head from where I had slipped and fell. And I had my roommate have to help me up then too. My roommate had to help me naked and bleeding off the floor. So it only was getting worse. And it was getting more and more scary for me being alone. So at this time, I was still, I've always, since being diagnosed at 15, I have been on medication to help control syncope. So I was on a beta blocker, I was on anti-inflammatory meds, I was on all that stuff. Same kind of cocktail I use now, it's just a little bit different. But yeah, I was still on the same meds, but it wasn't as controlled as it should be. So I was going to college and doing all of that, and then I got even more sick and I missed a day of college. So I got a suspension kind of thing at school, because cosmetology school is weird. You can't miss days. You have so many hours. You have to be there, all that jazz. So they suspended my case until I could have another hearing. And in that period, I got into a pretty serious car accident. It was the winter, and I got into a car accident. I slid out of the road. My airbags deployed. I had my head cut open. I had a dislocated shoulder. Um, it wasn't good. And when I went back, it was really hard, but I knew deep down I wasn't going to be able to do cosmetology school. I was only getting sicker. It was only getting worse and worse. That's all I could say. And so I told them, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to come back. And my mom was really mad at me for not going back. And I understand, but I was only getting sicker, and there was no way that I was going to be able to complete cosmetology school and continue to use that degree at the rate that my body was just deteriorating. I couldn't do it. So after that, I went and got I went and got a different job, and that job was awful. It was a very physical job. I was miserable all the time. I hated that job. So yeah, it wasn't working, and it wasn't good. But luckily, at that weird gap period between going out of college and going into a different job, I was able to have Denali come up with me. And that's when I contacted a professional trainer up here, and started doing training with Denali more seriously and consistently. And that's kind of when the topic came up with my doctors and with my trainer about Denali, doing service work. It was always kind of in the cards before, when we were picking him. I wanted a service dog, but I didn't know if it was actually going to come into play when I was first picking him. It wasn't until, he was 4 or 5 months old, that it was, really set in that, this is what he's going to do. This is what we are going to do. And that's when we really started to work heavily with a trainer and work heavily on his training. And at the beginning, it was really hard. As I had talked about in another video, Denali had some reactivity issues from a past experience with a ex-boyfriend. So we had to work through that and have him build his confidence again, and understand that he didn't need to bark at everything. So once that kind of was under control, we started going to courses. We started going to classes. And at that point, I was balancing going to work and training and, trying to be an adult and pay for things and, survive. So it only got harder and harder. I was exhausted all the time. I was in pain. I was miserable. I was tired and bitchy because I was tired and I hurt. And I didn't really have any social life. I didn't go out. I didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't have the energy for it. So the more and more, I worked with Denali, the more and more it became obvious that, it was going to work, that he was doing great and he was excelling at what he was doing. And, he was top of his class every time and was doing great. And that's kind of when my doctors really started to, talk about the fact that, like, they can only control my symptoms so far without making it dangerous for me. When you're dealing with how the heart works and how your blood vessels work, it can become very dangerous if you overblock those things. You can get very, very sick, or die because your heart's not doing what it should be. So there's only so much that they can do to block those things. So basically, once Denali was cleared mobility-wise, he worked when he was about a year-ish on, being held on to and feeling what that feels like. But it wasn't until he was a little over a year and a half old that he was cleared and we started working on some light mobility stuff. And it helped. It helped a lot. I didn't feel nearly as unstable. I wasn't as exhausted because I was constantly having to focus on what I was doing. I didn't have to constantly have something to keep a hold of to be able to tell where I was in space. I was able to walk around more freely. I was going out more because I felt more confident in that I wasn't gonna, fall over. And then that's when it started also to become, when Nadali was about maybe a year, is when he first started to do natural alert for syncope. So it was very easy to teach that and shape it because it was a natural alert. So basically after that, it went from me being scared to be in my own home alone to being able to go out with friends and go out and do things. And I was meeting people and being able to do things more independently. Denali worked on a prong collar most of his training. With EDS, it's very easy for my joints to be pulled out of place. And if he decided to pull me or one swift jerk, it would have been really bad for me. So I used a prong collar as he excelled on it. And it also was kind of a backup that if he did decide, he wanted to go do something or wanted to pull me, that I was able to keep control of him and it wasn't going to hurt me. It wasn't until I was 100% certain that I could control him without a prong collar that he was put on a martingale and a flat. And I was able to 100% know that if something happened, I could control the dog and he wouldn't hurt me. Not that he would purposely do that, but he didn't know his size. He didn't know his strength. He still doesn't know his size and strength. So yeah, I worked him on a prong collar. Yes, prongs can be safer in emergency situations than other training tools. Which is why I usually suggest using a prong collar or a martingale collar or a choke chain. Dogs cannot slip those. They can't pull their head back out of them. It's much easier to, I hate to say the word snare, but snare a dog if something is to happen in an emergency situation, if they're wearing those. It's why Denali usually doesn't work on a full flat collar. He usually works on a martingale or a choke chain, personal preference. Just because I trust him, he listens, he's a good boy. But in an emergency situation, something bad happens, I want to make sure for 100% certain I have a hold of my dog. So yeah. But once he completed his full training, at that point, I left my god-awful job, and I started working at Hot Topic. And Denali was almost completely done with training at that point. He only had 2 weeks left before he graduated with a CGC, and was considered to be a full service dog. He had task training and he completed his CGC. And at that point, after the CGC was when he was doing his public access test. So he was going to be considered a full service dog. And I had a friend who also worked at this Hot Topic who helped me get the job. And, they had no problems with me having Denali. And that was kind of the first job that I ever had or went to or interview that they didn't freak out or have a problem with Denali being there. DPT felt kind of weird at first, mostly because I didn't figure out exactly where he best positioned was to make it feel the best for my joints. I also have fibromyalgia, so my skin hurts, my nerves hurt. So it was kind of hard at first to kind of figure out how much weight he could put on me, where he needed to be, those kinds of things, so that he didn't hurt me. So yeah, it was kind of weird doing DPT until I kind of figured out what worked best. But yeah, it was weird having a job that was really open about Denali. And I was nervous. I was nervous to take Denali to work because I didn't quite know if he was gonna do well. But we've never had a problem. I've worked for the company for almost a year and a half now. Yeah, a year and a half now, and we've never had any issues. Never had anything bad happen. nothing. Um, and it's great because he really has helped show the district managers and the higher ups in the company of what a service dog should behave like and what it is like to have one working for your company, because they were taking a gamble. They were. They had never employed anybody at that location with a service dog before, or even in that district with a service dog before. So they didn't really know how to approach it. And I basically told them, you approach it the same way as you would with a wheelchair, same old, same old. Yeah, most hot topics are cramped. Mine is tiny, and the only reason that it is accessible is because I work there and I shove stuff out of the way and I make sure that you can get in and out of the aisles because I have to. Um, but any of the others that don't have somebody who's also handicapped working there, you cannot get through. I have to, again, shove stuff out of the way, move things so that I can get in and out. But yeah, I was very surprised at how open and willing the company was to work with me. Honestly, it was easier for them to work with me with having Denali than it was when I began using my wheelchair, which is shocking, but it was easier to do that than my wheelchair. Um, that's kind of up for like it just depends on what you're comfortable with. Um, Denali usually leans over and kind of gets comfortable. I don't mind how he lays as long as he's over out of the way, and his legs aren't sprawled out and he's not taking up space. I don't care how he lays. Um, Honestly, Denali usually doesn't rest his head unless I feel okay. But most of the time, he's pretty up and aware and watching and smelling me, and usually puts his head on my foot to tell when I'm going to get up, so he knows when to get up. So Denali, I never really sleeps when he's on duty personally. Um, but yeah, uh, I'm blessed with the people that I work with. They're great. Pretty much everybody I work with um, is understanding and works really well. And they leave Denali be when we're actively working, and when we have slow times, or I let Denali have a break and he's able to walk around behind the register, and he gets pats from my coworkers, and then he goes and lays back down after his break is over. So uh, but yeah, the difference between the feeling of, sorry, my hip is really hurting from how I was sitting. Um, the difference of how it was, almost 3 years ago, before, I would say 2 years ago, because once Denali was one is when it really changed. So about 2 years ago, the change has been immense. The difference. Um, Being able to go from being completely secluded and being so scared and uneasy and physically unable to go out and do things independently and comfortably, to being able to hold a job for well over a year, having a friend group, being able to go out and do things, um, being able to go to the grocery store and not worry, those kinds of things. It's massive. Yeah. If it's not disrupting, it's not an issue, but it's a handler to handler, preference. Hi, Banks. I know. Hi, Kitty. Hi. Banks is trying to get in on the live. Come here. Are you gonna come here, or are you just gonna smell the laptop? But yeah, it just it's hard to believe the change because even now I kind of I second guess myself, and I have a really bad habit of, well, maybe, I don't need to use Denali, or maybe, it's just using my chair is enough, or something like that. But then I try and go without, and I can't. I can't. I can't physically do that. Um, I can't safely do that. So it just, I never thought that I would get to this point. I will say that me and my doctors are currently working together to get new knee braces and possibly getting SI joint or hip joint. Um, it's it's basically a complete structured brace that would hold my hips and knees completely together, um, to see if that would help for me to be able to walk more comfortably and safely without hyperextending and grinding on those joints and hurting those joints even more. So I don't have to rely on my chair so much. But it's if I don't use my chair, then I have to rely more on Denali. If I'm in my chair, I don't have to rely quite as much on Denali, especially physically. Um, so it just kind of it it just depends. Um, I'm still kind of trying to work through exactly um, what we're gonna do and if it's gonna work and all that stuff. Um, but it's definitely in the works. And going to physical therapy again will be nice because it does help. Um, but yeah, I'd like to get back to where I can only use my chair on really bad days, or um, for other events and things, and I would be able to walk more, or only using my chair when I have to work, those kinds of things. So that would be nice. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen, if that's going to how that works out. It's just kind of up to my body at this point. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the difference between what it was like living without not Denali to being able to rely on, a reliable alert and being able to get up and get help and not be so scared um, to do things independently. Um, I still don't foresee myself ever being able to completely live alone ever. Um, whether it be with my sister like I do now, we share, um, we're roommates, or it be, if I find a significant other in the future and it's me and my significant other, I don't foresee myself being able to safely live completely alone. Um, so yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, whether it be on what I've talked about or if you just have regular questions, I'll kind of do some questions for like the next 10-ish minutes. But then I'm probably going to go because I need to go do laundry. So, excuse me. That's cool. Shiloh Shepherds are pretty. They got a lot of hair, most of them at least. I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's like 9:30 here. I know that sounds early, but I've done a lot today. I like cleaned my whole house today, so I'm kind of tired. I'm running low on spoons, so I'm very surprised that my cat has stayed out of stuff. Binksy, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. There he is. Binksy, don't go messing with the fish. Come here. No, I haven't swept yet, but I do plan on sweeping in my chair. Binks is a good boy. He's definitely feeling better now. Huh. Yeah, I know. Come here. Come here. I'm sorry I touched your head. I know. No, Binks was feeling under the weather. We'd been battling a case of worms for like the last couple of months with him. He's been treated multiple times, but it never really completely kicked it. So I ended up having to go and splurge and get an injectable for him to really make sure that it was, completely taken care of, because the oral stuff was not cutting it. It was not doing the job. I don't know if he just wasn't getting enough of it or if it just didn't work as well. But it's been maybe like 2 days and he's already improved. He's already improved a lot. He had some hair patches that were, thinning, and they're already starting to grow back. So he feels much better, huh? And then Denali goes for his updated vaccines next week. We have an appointment for him to go get his vaccines up to date. Because he gets vaccinated for absolutely everything, including flu, flea and tick, and all of it. That's Christmas gift is the big expenditure of getting him completely vaccinated. I like to have him vaccinated for absolutely anything that they can vaccinate for, so I cut out any chances of him getting sick at all. Even though I am happy I have my chair now, so, worst comes to worst, I just have to rely on my chair if he gets sick. But I really don't like doing that because I then have to go with somebody else all the time. Because I don't have my service dog with me to help me, and if something happens, I'm alone. So, yeah. What do you want from me? I feel like my cat is just boring into my soul. He's staring at me. What do you want? I also have 2 black cats for people who have seen lives. I have 2. I have Binks and then I have Alice. So they aren't just freakishly growing hair at one point. One is long-haired, one is short-haired. Hello. But Denali is out hanging out with my sister. My sister's playing video games, so he's out there probably chewing on his racquetball. Or he does have an antler out right now that he was chewing on. Alice is such a good cat. She's so weird. She has polydactyly, so she has thumbs. She's got little weird muffin feet. And she screams really loud all the time. Including at 4 a.m. when you're trying to sleep and you want to kill her. So. I'm hoping, I was thinking about doing a kind of a house tour of what it's like to live in a handicap accessible home, because obviously I live in a handicap accessible home. But yeah, she did lose her collar again, and I found it the other day, yesterday, and fixed it and put it back on her, only now it is like 2 notches tighter. I think it's when she grooms that she's getting it caught and pulling it off. So I made it a little bit tighter, and so far, so good. Can still slip over top of her head, but she's not catching it when she grooms herself. So, um, for people who don't know, my cats are spoiled rotten, and Alice and Binks have 14 karat gold collars. That was their gift, was to get really nice collars now that they're both completely full grown, and I wanted to get a nice set to last 20 plus years. So yeah, Alice lost hers 2 days after I got them in, and I was ticked. Hers isn't just gold, it is rose gold, and it was very expensive. So yeah, I was ticked. Luckily, I ended up finding it, and it's fine, but I was ticked. It's not mandatory to have a service dog chipped, but I highly suggest it. Because if something happens and someone snatches your dog, you want to have that on hand. Or if your dog goes missing for any other reason. I'm blessed, Denali's not going to go anywhere willingly. I know for a fact if Denali goes missing, someone took my dog. Oh, speaking of which, what are you doing, Denali? Come here, buddy. What you got? You got your ball. And there he goes again. But yeah, if Denali goes missing, someone took my dog. He's not gonna go anywhere willingly. I know that for a fact. And I know I need to do a gear haul. It's been a while. I need to hang the rest of my gear back up. My gear wall is over here. As you can tell, I have a bunch of stuff missing. But yeah, I also need to do get stuff up to date to do the giveaway. The giveaway probably will happen in the next few weeks, and hopefully I will have that for a week, and then by Christmas I'll announce the winners, and by New Year's stuff will be in. Hopefully, fingers crossed that everything goes okay. My family hasn't been doing the best. My grandmother is really really sick. So yeah, it's just kind of been hard to do that. Basically, I'm gonna put up a video, and if you want to be in the giveaway, you basically just comment on that video. So we're gonna do it that way, and that enrolls you in the giveaway. I think I'm gonna be doing one collar and leash set, and a brand new nail grinder. And then if someone has a large service dog of a girth larger than 32 inches, I have a lime green and blue puffy jacket that I'm willing to donate to a team. I haven't found anybody locally who is in need of one yet. So yeah. That's what I think is all going to be going on giveaway wise. I thought about doing another collar leash set, but the other one that I have, it's not really a matching set, so I was just going to donate it. Probably not. I'll just ask people to put that they want to be in the giveaway, or just put giveaway, or say what your favorite color is in the comments, or something like that for giveaway. Nothing that special, nothing that crazy. I need to go through some of my stuff. It's really hard because I have a full purple set, like gear, whole shebang, collar, leash, gear, whole nine. I have a full lime green set. I have a full lime green and pink set. I have a full red set. And then I'm getting ready to have a entire yellow set because Denali has a Hufflepuff cape that I've been working on. Yeah, or like your dog's name or something like that. But yeah, those are kind of the ones that I've been working on gear wise. Excuse me. But yeah, that's kind of all that's just been going on. I need to put my glasses back on because it's going to start giving me a freaking headache. But I'm probably going to jump off of here. It's already been like 45 minutes on here. And I still need to vacuum and fold some laundry because I have to adult because I got to work tomorrow. So, if anybody has any more questions real quick, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Ouch. Which I would like to do a like vest giveaway or something like that, but most of my stuff has already been donated or sold to like local handlers who are too poor to afford them new, or are just now getting into it and didn't want to spend, an astronomical amount on a personalized set. So that's mostly where most of my stuff has gone. Lord of mercy. The yawning has got to stop. Every outpatient therapy center is different. Mostly all I can say is go in with an open mind. Listen to what is being talked about, and don't be too scared to talk about stuff and talk about it. It's what you're there for. It can be kind of awkward and odd at times, but that's I really enjoyed my outpatient experience. It was really nice. I met a lot of really cool people. Still talk to a couple of them actually. They're very nice and understanding, and Denali always loved going because he always got compliments, and at the end of it all, he always got loved on. So I've never really had any awful experiences. Um, it is very stressful the first time you go, though. But as you continue to go, the easier and easier it gets. I saw that you're selling her camo vest. I still haven't found anybody to buy my other cape. A lot's changed in 15 years. You'd be surprised. It's much more personable. It's not nearly as, structured and serious. Everybody kind of jokes around. At least that was my experience. I know you guys are in New York, so their system might be different, but my experience was very positive. So and try not to miss too much when you go, because it's easier when you go consecutively. That, and it gives them much better, data wise, to kind of see patterns and things like that. That's how I got diagnosed. Which it definitely was a very long 6 weeks. I'll say that. It was a very long 6 weeks. All right, well, I'm getting ready to jump off here. It's getting ready to be like 50 minutes since I've been on here, so it's nice talking to everybody. If you guys have any other suggestions or videos you want to see, whether it be training or, asking questions about any of it, what it's like to be with fibro, questions about EDS, mental health questions, or even questions about, I've broken crazy amounts of bones. I've had all kinds of crazy life experiences. Even questions about, interpersonal relationships, dealing with chronic illness, those kinds of things. Nothing is too sacred for me to talk about. So if anybody's wanting to talk about any of that stuff or suggestions, feel free to ask. Most of the requested ones will probably be on a live, just because it's easier to do that way. So that way I can answer your guys' questions as we go. If I don't hit something exactly on the nose, I can kind of elaborate and explain better in a live than I could on an edited video. So yeah, if you guys aren't following me already, my Instagram is the same handle as YouTube. If you guys want to follow me over there, there's definitely much more personal stuff over there. You get to see more day to day, a little bit more in depth, with, Denali's day to day go abouts and how he works and, what he's like working. So it's definitely like the best place to go is my Instagram, which is part of the reason why I made my Instagram and my YouTube the same exact handle, because it's much easier to tell you to type in the exact same thing. But yeah, it was nice talking to you guys. I'm gonna go fold laundry because I'm cool. And I will see you guys maybe tomorrow after work. If not, sometime before the end of the week. Okay. Bye.